CIMM stands for the Coalition for Innovative Media Measurement, and it was launched in, it was right around 2008, 2009. Actually, Alan Wurtzel from NBC. It might have been at a time when they were going through one of their long-term contract negotiations with Nielsen, but it was also right around the time when return path data was coming into the market. And there have been different times over the last 20, 30, 40 years where the buyers and the sellers have both said, we really need to get together to talk about what we need. We need to have, like a JIC, like they have in other countries, a joint industry committee or a MOC, a media-owned committee, something where the end users get together and say what it is that they need and tell the vendors, and then the vendors will provide a solution. And so the thinking in the US is that you can't have JICs. They think it's antitrust generally. That idea is kind of tends to be reinforced by Nielsen a lot. And some people really think we actually could do a JIC in the US, but it would be a very long process, and Nielsen would probably contest it. And anyway, so people really haven't wanted to go through that whole process. So what they did was they went through a legal process to determine that we could have a JIC-like structure for innovation. So they spent about a year talking to everybody in Washington, like, we're not going to be any trouble if we do this. And by that time, it was right around the time of the recession. And so the original idea had been to put in a lot of money, get all the big holding companies, all the media companies, everybody put in $100,000 a piece, and we would create a new cross-platform measurement system, a new more granular television system using set-top box data. By the time it took them to set it all up and everything, and I started as the first managing director in January of 2010, it was really more scaled down a little bit more,
And cross-platform management wasn't the big issue back then, was it?
Oh, it was starting to be a big issue, yeah, definitely. So CNN, ESPN, those are the companies that really started to feel the pain, I mean, ESPN with their World Cup, they were really one of the leaders in working with ComScore and others to try to push this, because they have content on 5 different platforms. They have television, they have digital video, they have clips, they have text online, their websites, they even have magazines. So there was a need then to pull it all together and get an unduplicated reach and frequency across platforms. And also, everyone was really curious about the potential of set-top box data as well. How that could be folded into the mix. They pay so much money. The media companies pay for the measurement, and they pay an inordinate amount of money. So they're also always looking for solutions that could be less expensive too. So I think that's why they hoped that return path data might end up being a less expensive solution than panels. Because what happens with the panel is when you start, how many things can you measure of one family in a household? We're kind of pushing that with one of the proof of concept pilot tests that we're doing in the kids and teens measurement area. But the thinking has been that you can't get one person or one family to measure everything that's going on in that household, that you have to do it somehow passively. And that's why the ComScore Total Home Panel with this router meter, it passively sees all the digital devices in the household and everything that's going through the internet. So, it's basically that the industry wants to understand how consumers are moving across all these platforms. They want to try to do it, less expensively than a huge expensive panel that, what if you had a panel of 1 million people? It would be unaffordable for the industry. So that's why this whole, everybody's trying to combine kind of some of the census measurements, some of the panels to calibrate, putting together all these pieces to try to get an affordable solution, because it's not just what's ideal from a measurement point of view, it's what's affordable.
So what would you say are one or two of the major highlights from the study that Sequent presented today that CIMM commissioned?
Well, I think the key thing is that this area of ROI, attribution analysis, and media mix modeling is extremely important to advertisers. The media side, kind of the media partners don't always understand how the advertisers are doing all that kind of research, and so I think a lot of it is just bringing transparency to all those methods and giving the buyers and the people who use it, the right questions to ask the vendors, and how to be a good customer of that, those kinds of studies, and how to understand when you're a media company and the advertisers tell you, well, my model tells me this or my attribution tells me this. A lot of them don't even really know how to talk to them about that and how to ask all the questions. So, the biggest thing for the CIMM members, I think, is just education and getting everybody to understand how these things work. What are all the data inputs? How good or bad are they? And where do we need to go to improve it?
Last question, what would be the next steps?
Well, I've been talking to Jim and Alice, and I like what some of the steps that they've suggested. This whole thing of identity we did another paper on that too, and that's a really big issue because, consumers haven't really opted in to this yet, to saying, okay, there's benefit for people knowing my identity. I mean, they kind of do it with cookies. Okay, remember me on this site, and then they're allowing you to remember them. When we get into this the mobile environment, with apps, we don't really have a way of remembering someone from app to app, except for through the device ID. But, you start adding all this stuff together, IP addresses, device IDs, location. Pretty soon what you thought was kind of non-PII data is becoming PII, or II as they call it, indirectly identifiable. So, solving this problem of how to link a particular consumer or a household across all these different data sets and do it in a way that's privacy compliant, either with or without the knowledge of the customer, but that they've somehow opted into doing it. It's a really tricky challenge because you don't want to annoy people. You want to have it improve their experience, but it's really important for the whole measurement ecosystem to be able to do that. It enables so much. I mean, Adam Gerber said that on the last panel. If we don't solve that, we can't link all these data sets. It's a really key thing. So, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I mean, the good thing about CIMM is we get everybody in a room, like they said, and we try to talk about these issues, try to put them on paper, have an RFP, get a company to try to do it, and we try to let people know what it is that we need to answer. What are the tools that we need to conduct business? And see if we can get them to develop it and do it in a timely way and that's affordable.